I just had the weirdest reading experience of this year, and I don't know if I love it or hate it. I'm only like 30 pages in and I'm freaking out. But would I recommend this book? No. I don't know what's showing up on your For You pages, but this is what I'm seeing.
What did you just tell me, babe?
I said people are selling their copies of Fourth Wing with this frayed edges for like ridiculous amounts of money.
And
this is me before Assistant to the Villain. They don't even know that they're cute.
So like, let me just say, I did not finish this book. I DNF'd it.
I fell for the hype, and now I'm obligated to share my suffering online with you guys. I'm a little nervous. The first book I'm starting with, honestly, this book isn't too popular, but this author is super popular. Olivia Blake, which I always want to say Olivia Blake because I am a peasant and don't read. So Olivia Blake has this really popular series. I'm sure you haven't heard of it. The Atlas 6. Super underrated. Never before seen. So I didn't really want to start a series. So I was like browsing and looking at my booktok in the bookstore, and I saw this. What I really want to figure out in this read is Olivia Blake's writing style, because I've been searching through the internet and people either call her a lyrical genius or very pretentious. So I think this is a safe way to explore her writing style. And a nice short story about two artists, which I relate to. Hi, I'm a struggling actress, woohoo. So hopefully this touches me personally. That's what I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping for some deep feels, some deep thoughts. Like, I feel like I am the target audience for this book. So if it doesn't hit home for me, that says a lot. So let's dive in.
See, like, is it pretentious to call your preface a hypothesis? Methinks, maybe.
Okay, so after an accidental nap, I am 100 pages into Alone with You in the Ether. And I have a lot of thoughts. Mainly that I want to annotate this book, but I'm only 100 pages in. So what if the next 200 pages are trash and I mark up this book with my idiotic thoughts? So the synopsis of this story is two people are meeting and they both feel very isolated in their thoughts. Aldo, the male character, he has a lot of not intrusive thoughts, but he likes to theorize. He is literally a theoretical mathematician, I think that's what they call them. He's getting his PhD, he's a teacher, doesn't enjoy it. He has a very mundane routine of life, and I think that keeps him afloat and not worrying about death and whatnot. And then there's this other main character, Reagan, who is our female love interest, and she taking lots of pills. Don't know why exactly yet. 100 pages in. Hopefully we'll learn that there's a family dinner coming soon. We'll see. Also, if you can hear my roommate playing video games, that is what those deathly sounds are. She feels kind of different and isolated in the fact that she's always kind of presented herself in a very particular way, very astute and intelligent, but also aloof and crazy and chaotic, so people don't expect much of her. So it's very interesting. So these two people collide and they have this kind of agreement to have 6 conversations with each other, and it's all very bizarre and weird, but I love it so much. Also, there was this weird aspect in the beginning of the story that, like, there were different narrators talking, like a teenage narrator or an elderly narrator that would just jump in and explain, like, the character's thoughts. That's not happening so much more. That happened in the first, like, 30 or 40 pages a lot, where someone would pop in and say something, which was very interesting. And the audiobook is a full cast, so it was very cool to listen to and read and see. And there was some, like, scene descriptions, like, oh, he's smoking a joint. That has kind of died down now, which actually kind of makes me sad, because I thought that was a very cool aspect. I was looking forward to that, especially as an actor. I'm pleasantly surprised. None of this makes sense, but I love it. Okay, y'all, it's the next day, and I'm halfway through, and I don't know what the F's happening. There is one particular character that I'm just so deeply concerned for. Only halfway through. Short ass book.
I need to like finish it and figure out what's happening, because I'm just like not okay. Not okay. What, I can't even form words. I'm not okay with what's happening. I'm very concerned and worried. Also worried that none of the people in the book are worried. Like what? Okay, friends. I finished Alone with You in the Ether. And I have a lot of thoughts. And I feel like I'm processing so many emotions right now. Did I enjoy the book? Yes. But would I recommend this book? No. It's really hard to say. I'm like so undecided and I'm like literally sweating. It is so hot here in LA. I'll explain at the end of the video whether or not I recommend these books and why. I have many reasons why I wouldn't recommend this for certain people and who I would recommend this to. So, I think I've decided for my next book I am going to read Assistant to the Villain. Yes, everyone and their mother has been talking about this book. Besides the fact that it's very pretty, I recently did a little reel or TikTok talking about the only reason I purchased this book was this one sentence on the back that says, "Don't find evil so attractive, Evie." And I just thought it was hilarious. So I feel like this is going to be a really fun, silly time. So these are the vibes that I think will help me lift from the deep depression I have been in. The deep obsession, I guess you can say. Because this was, whoa, what a journey. And I also think if she finds him attractive, if they find each other attractive, this is going to be a fun time. You know what I mean? I just had the weirdest reading experience of this year. And I don't know if I love it or hate it. So I was going into this book knowing it'd be ridiculous, and yet I have finished the book so quickly. It was the fastest audiobook read of this year, which is odd because it's not a huge fantasy, but it's pretty lengthy. I believe it's like 10 hours long, the audiobook. But I just was so obsessed. It was the strangest thing, especially because I have to reenact this reading experience, because 10% of the way through the book I was like, this chick is annoying, this is really unrealistic, but I was like smiling through it. I was like, this is so silly, ha 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 ha. Then we're getting 50 pages through it and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of murder and we're just like, haha, whatever, he's severing heads and hanging them in the kitchen. How cute. It's just weird. I don't know when in this book, maybe 100 pages, their weird quirks became so meaningful. I care so deeply for the male and female characters in this book. It's ridiculous because you start off, ha ha ha, she's so annoying, that's so stupid, she trips over everything. And now I'm like, the next time she trips and scuffs her knee, I'm gonna kill that person who, I don't know, planted that tree there because I care for her so deeply. It's weird and it's like bizarre. She has sentences in here where she's like, "You're so stupid, Evie, don't trip on that branch," and oh my god, stop finding his biceps so good looking. And the ridiculousness is off the charts. It is so fun, incredibly bizarre, incredibly weird, but I was hooked. Okay, I sat on the couch and I was just reading, and I was reading, and I was reading, and I had zero time to do any reaction vlog of any, there was no vlogging. I was just reading and I was just like, wow, okay, wow, okay, wow. Ridiculous thing, ridiculous thing. I also really love that there's a bit of a mystery happening here. The series is just so fun, but I think what this author does well is that these really quirky, weird ass characters have a lot of like meaning to them. I end up really supporting this really dark and brooding villainous character because he has such a secret past and he seems so deeply hurt by all these people that he supposedly used to love. And he's very jaded and you kind of want to know why. And then she is so quirky and clumsy and happy-go-lucky, but it's like she had to be because she lost so many people so close to her in her life that she's like, if I went down a negative path, I don't know what my sister would do. I don't know what I'd do with my life. Their life wouldn't be worth living anymore. You really start to care for these two characters because she's like cute little face. That was such a high pitch, I'm very sorry, but that was just the wildest reading experience I've had because it started off with, haha, this is so ridiculous, 3-star kind of fun energy to, is this a 5-star? Do I now ship these two? I so rarely ship couples in books. Like, I'm literally reading the third book that I'm about to talk about and introduce. I do not ship the main couple in it. We'll get into that later. But I'm just like, I ship these two and I would kill for them. At the end of the book, I believe both of them so deeply. I guess that's the difference, is that most books, when you read that these people love each other, you don't believe it. But this whole first book, they were not pining after each other, but like, I like you, but you're a villain and I clearly can't date you, you're my boss. And the boss is like, you're so stubbornly happy, it makes me... My tangent was going on too long, my camera died, I'm sorry. But basically, I believe the characters. It's wild, it's crazy. I'll talk to you later about more things. Okay, bye. Oh my god, guys, last night I started Fourth Wing, and I didn't think like the first 100 pages would be like super notable. We're obviously going to get acclimated to a new world and everything. So I was like, okay, what's my first impression after the first 100 pages? I'm only like 30 pages in and I'm freaking out. I think what Rebecca does really well is the stakes are immediately very, very high. So I can see why a lot of people pick this up and really enjoy it immediately. Because the first, was it chapter or two? I was invested. I was invested. It's feeling a little YA. I think this is supposed to be adult, technically. Because like there's characters who are hateful for no particular reason besides just wanting to be murderous. So it's giving that kind of YA energy where you're like, that's chaotic for no reason yet. Hopefully there'll be more explanation. Obviously it was just the first 30 or so pages, but I had to jump in here and say, what? Invested. I'm already freaking out, and since I've been on BookTok, Dane's name, I already know it. So when I saw him and his character and how he was behaving around the main girl character, I was like, I ship it. There's no ship to be had yet. 30 pages in, I ship it. Okay, please ignore my bedhead and my morning voice. I accidentally stayed up. Okay, it was an accident, but I stayed up till like 2 AM reading Fourth Wing. Obsessed. I'm halfway through. I'm about like 250 some pages in. I have many thoughts. Firstly, this isn't a spoiler, I don't think. Don't care for Dane. I mentioned him very briefly when starting to read this, because I've seen a lot of TikToks about him being like the man. I don't like him. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. It's not like for any big reason. We don't care for him, and that's my update. That's what I learned from many hours of reading into the night. And dragons are the best. Okay, y'all, I managed to read these 3 super popular books, and let me explain why or why not I recommend them. First, we have Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I can say her name now, yay. I was gonna mention a quote that I really loved, but I just took a screenshot of the page and like literally don't know what sentence was supposed to stand out in this, but who knows. I ended up rating this a 5 out of 5. It is indeed a book made for me. I truly love this. The conversations in here do lean towards science fiction and math theory, so if you like to kind of pick apart big brain topics, then it's just really fun and engaging to see them like have these conversations and see them kind of fall in love with each other and see how they've been protecting themselves their whole life and from being vulnerable and decide to be vulnerable with each other. Yeah, ended up being my favorite book, which is quite crazy. I literally felt that all the books I thought I would like, I ended up not liking, and the books that I was like weary about were the ones that I liked. I had the bizarrest reading experience here. So this book I would recommend to people if you like to talk about mathematical theory, which I know most of y'all are not into that, but me, I'm into that. If you liked This Is How You Lose the Time more, very science fiction based, where they were just throwing a lot of theory and like weird concepts into this love story. If you love that book, I highly recommend this book. So not for everybody, but definitely for the select few like me who love art and love talking theoretically about things, but only in a fictional setting. Don't try and actually start proving these theories. That's what I love about it. That's why I love science fiction. We're just gonna say that this is this and then maybe poke a couple questions and then we're done. The next book, which surprisingly I gave a 4-star, is Assistant to the Villain. So I was very surprised that this wacky, weird romance worked out in my favor. So I would recommend this to most romance readers and to most fantasy readers, because the fantasy world is interesting. There is a subplot of someone is trying to attack the villain and undermine him, and we're interested in the main character Evie figuring out her life, her livelihood, how to save her family. So there is a substantial amount of plot and some weird, wacky romance and a lot of brooding tension, but it is, again, first and foremost, weird and wacky. But I would actually recommend this to most people, unless you don't like very weird comedy. Okay, lastly, we have Fourth Wing, which was actually the most disappointing read of them all, which is so surprising. So you guys did see me freaking out while reading this book, I will say. Changing positions a little bit, my feet were getting tired. But I will say this was my probably most disappointing read, just because I was expecting it to be my favorite and it wasn't. This is more like a 3.75 if I'm being picky, which I am a picky bitch, so I'm gonna be picky. I did enjoy the beginning of this book. The stakes were very high. The synopsis, I don't think I ever really explained it, was this girl who had been studying to be a scribe, which is someone who, like, you know, writes history. Her mom is the general of this. She's the general of the army, so she forces her, like, disabled daughter into going into the writer's quadrant, which means that she has to learn how to fly on a dragon, which really means you're basically gonna die. That's what this means. Like 80% of the people who go into the writer's quadrant die. So her mom basically was like, just die or be a writer. Those are your two options. I can't have you be writing nonsense. I'm a general. I won't have a scribe for a daughter. Which is very concerning, especially because our main character has some sort of disability, which is an element that I liked in this book, but would have enjoyed if we explained it just a bit more. She is depicted, our main character, as very frail. Her joints are often, like, literally breaking. She's been mended so many times over her life because she's just a very frail person. They don't really explain the illness or disease, and that's what makes me sad, because it would have been nice to have, like, a name to it, even if it was like a fantastical thing. But I can understand that most disabled people can now associate that with themselves, and I think it was such an interesting character trait to have in this book. But it did lean towards she exercised more and was slowly becoming stronger. There was some dialogue of, you don't need to change, you're strong enough, but I think that I hope to explore that more in future books, that her body isn't, like, shouldn't be looked at as a weakness, even though technically it's a little complicated. It's something I'm just pittering about in my head, where I was like, do I like it? Do I not? I like the representation. Do I not? Had to remove a whole star because I don't like the main character. I find her a little insufferable, and I think you're supposed to not like her. I don't know. I found her to sound just like Evie from Assistant to the Villain, where she's just telling herself in her head, like, oh, don't find him so attractive. And that's kind of like a funny haha line, but, like, she, like, deadass means it so many times in this book. Like, I shouldn't like him. I shouldn't like him. And it's like, girl, you keep saying that, yet you're pining after him so effing hard. Like, it was just not believable, and it wasn't fun to read. There are so many noises going on in the background. Wow. Oh my god. So I found the main character a little insufferable, and the love interest, how it developed, I did like it, because I did talk about Dane a little bit in the beginning of this vlog, talking about Fourth Wing. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm liking how the story is panning out, but it was really giving me Red Queen vibes, which is so interesting because that series gets so much, like, shit. But I think it's such a good series, especially if you continue reading it. The first book is very much, I feel like, maybe like this, where it starts off at like a 3.5 star, and then as you go on, the stakes get more and more serious. So that's what I'm hoping for in this book. The first book, very easy to fall into, but not anything new or interesting, mainly because I don't really care for the main girl. At first, it was so urgent for her to survive, and then now I'm like, I don't like you as a person very much, or at least I don't like being in her headspace, because she just seems to be so annoying to me personally. I'm like not up for being in her head for like 500 pages. I don't care how attracted she is to these guys who she should not be attracted to. I think she just needs a little bit more spine or something. She needs something that makes her herself, besides I need to survive and not die, and everyone thinks I'm gonna die except for this guy who believes in me, but this guy doesn't. It's all about boys, and it's kind of annoying. Even though I say that, I actually think this is the most recommendable book out of the stack that I have, which is quite interesting. My lowest rated book is the one I would recommend the most, because I think, again, very easy story to get into, very fun story to get into. The stakes are really, really high. I just think you might, if you like the main character a little bit more, it's a lot more exciting. So I think this could have easily been a 5-star if I didn't find the main girl character to be annoying. I took down a star for that, and then I took off a little bit more because though it was fun in the second half, I was just really, I could not care about the boy plot at all. But I did care about like the killing plots. Those were fun, and I'm very excited to see how the series continues. Obviously this is a standalone, so I will have to visit more Olivia Blake, because I do think her writing, very much like science fiction. She using a lot of big words, and I like it. My little pea-sized brain is like, am I digesting this really fun topic that's very hard to understand? Yes, I am. Give me more science. Give me more math. Pretty please. For some reason, my brain goes science fiction and not math, even though this book is very clearly all about math. In a fun way, guys. Give it a chance. So, and then these two are series, and they're gonna be more books, and I'm delighted to keep reading this book because this ended on such a high. So I think that's what this book did good. It started off weird and wacky, but then it gets endearing as you read it, and this book starts off with a lot of urgency, and then I think you're supposed to get endearing as you get to know the characters. I'm just not there yet. I guess I'm gonna have to wait to the second book to find out if I like the characters enough, because I also feel like a lot of the characters I did care for died. Rude. That is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and you should definitely follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I've been posting more on those platforms lately, and I'm very proud of myself. Look at me being a social media person, I guess. And yeah, I will come out with more videos in the near future, so stay tuned. If you made it to the end of this video, comment down below this emoji, so I know you're the real MVP, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye!